Well, I don't know what you've done with that radio, Graham, but I've got no copy here. Um, you'll wonder how I know it's you, but I've just recognised the voice and the time and all that sort of thing. So there's something not quite right there. Just make sure you go through all your connections. But boy, there's not much coming out. I just wonder if anybody else is copying Toranui to see how far that signal is going, but boy, it's certainly not reaching here. Any other people here, Toranui? No, it's a problem, Graham. You're going to have to work on that one before you get going this week. Over.
Roger.
Oh, you came up really strong then. Maybe the radio is a bit like me. It takes a bit of waking up in the morning. Over.
Okay, thanks. We've been having battery problems.
Oh, okay. Well, you're coming up quite well now. So, yeah, it's a nuisance when one battery is out, that's for sure.
Maybe our problem too.
What was that?
Maybe our problem too.
Maybe our problem, says
No,
David.
on the boat.
On the boat, yeah. We're having battery problems at the moment, although we think it's a Mastervolt problem. Yeah, it's always a pain. Yeah, especially when you're in somewhere like Vavau. So, yeah, hopefully you can just take that one out of the system and move on. Anyway, good morning to everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, and we've got a weather problem here. God, it's snotty. We've had a lot of rain overnight. It's 14 degrees, so it's not exactly chilly, I suppose, by winter standards. We've got about 6 knots of wind from the west, 1010.1, but showers are coming through on and off, and I think that's, looking at the satellite picture, that's what we're going to get for the rest of the day. We're interested in the reports coming in from the boats that took off over the weekend, Saturday, and some took off on Friday. They seem to be above this trophy frontal system, so that's good. Haven't seen the report in from Moonfish yet, but they are above it and leading the pack. We've got people like, let me see, where's Erie 2? Erie 2 are down at 3150 and 174. He's got 16 knots of westerly. So I think you're the back one, Al. Cables length 2 are up at 29 and 48 south, 2948 and 176, with 14 knots of north-northwest. So pretty good sailing. Everyone was a bit slow for a while. I had to use the engine, which is good to get above the system. If you didn't, you'll be in the system. But we always warn you about that. But very pleasant conditions pretty much for everyone further north, bit of troughing around. Those folk in the banks, Gracious Lady won't be enjoying life at the moment. Pretty snotty up there in the Torres area. But apart from that, and a little bit of troughing for the boats coming from Samoa to Tonga. Now they're on their way. Actually, everybody's on their way at the moment. It's much more interesting. Tonga bound from both the south and Samoa. We've got a boat going from today, leaving from Vavau to Savu. So, and then Erie 2 is going to be taking off this week to French Polynesia and then ultimately Alaska. Goodness, that's enough to make me tired just thinking about it. So I'm not sure everybody is that we were tracking last week is pretty much in. We've got Eye Candy and Sawara at the moment. We'll need to try and find where Quintessa is. Sahula's arriving in Port Vila today. So everyone's going pretty well. I'll just wait and see if Quintessa is going to be in hailing distance, give you a bit of news to start with. You'll be pleased to know those people, and those very few people who have to call upon the New Zealand Air Force to find them. As you know, we have Orion aircraft that do that. They are now 60 years old. They have, in that time, updated a lot of the electronics, of course. And in fact, there's an article on our website, ghradio.co.nz, about the Orion and their helpful hints on what to do if they are out looking for you. You might want to check that out. It's under Flotsam. But anyway, they've got some pretty sophisticated gear on board the Orion. But the Orion itself is pretty old, and this week our group of, what shall we call them, decision makers and spenders are going to look at spending 1.4 billion US dollars to buy 4 Boeing P-8A Poseidons. Now these are just a glorified, well they're much glorified 737 that the US developed. Lockheed actually lost the contract, so Boeing got the contract, and now the US Navy, as well as the navies of Australia, Norway and India, use this aircraft called the Poseidon, and that's what we're looking at buying, up to 4 of them for $1.4 billion. So just as well, the Prime Minister has a new baby to help with the tax that will be needed over the years to come to pay for all of this, but they will be much wanted and looked forward to. I'm not sure it'll be in our lifetime, but who knows? They're probably existing planes, so we might get those, and they'll be out. Yeah, have to get used to a new sound going ahead when they leave the airport that's not all that far from us here and fly up to look for any boats in the Pacific. They go right over Gold Harbour radio. So we're used to the sound of the Orion. We have to get used to something different. So, oh, and by the way, the Prime Minister's new baby girl is called Neve. It's Irish. Can't remember what it means. Neve. Neve Tiaroha Ardern Gayford. But she's going to be called Neve Gayford, which is her father's last name.
We call her Never.
Never. Yes, Never. Okay, Neve. It's a pretty unusual name. This original spelling of the name is rather more complicated, but they have decided to spell it as it is said. All right, let's get closer to home with you guys up in the Pacific and just be a little bit cautious of problems that you might pick up while you're travelling. They had quite an article in the paper about what you could come home with from the islands by way of dengue, fever, Zeta virus, food poisoning, all these different lurgies, and by far the very worst country to visit is Samoa. So hopefully those folk that left Samoa yesterday are not bringing with them to Tonga anything that they shouldn't be, but boy, the statistics from Samoa are pretty grim. That was followed by Fiji as being the next worst, then India, then Tonga, and so it goes on down the list to Vanuatu was about the best place, probably because you can't really eat out of all that too many places in Vanuatu, apart from Bougainville and Port Vila, you're on your own. But anyway, food is no problem there, and there doesn't seem to be the problems with dengue and Zeta. But boy, there was 51 cases of dengue last year from Samoa, so just be very careful with the bugs there and use your DEET. And evidently the dengue one is not in the afternoon, it's in the first thing in the morning. So just be careful if you go ashore first thing in the morning. Okay, what else can I tell you? There's nothing much else really of news that you haven't heard before. But by this time of the year, we like to give people a little bit of interesting news about New Zealand, because by now we have folk joining us from other parts of the world. And many of you, when you come to New Zealand, decide to go and explore our beautiful bush walks. Tramping in New Zealand is a favourite occupation. There are wonderful trails all over the place, mostly in the South Island, but absolutely wonderful tramping opportunities, particularly if you take your boat down south and go down the west coast, which is not for the faint-hearted, I might add, but there are some very isolated trails over there. But evidently, last year, 4,000 people got injured doing this hobby. 4,000 people, and 5 died. So there you are. If you're going to go tramping in New Zealand, it is not for the faint-hearted. The trails are good if you are used to trails. They are certainly not the sort of trails that you probably have in your more frequented home countries where you've got, a metre wide graded pathway. These are a lot less, because of the terrain, you will not be getting that. So do take care, and probably best to do it with somebody who has done it before in New Zealand. All right, let's have a look. I'm going to try and find Quintessa first. Quintessa, Gulf Harbour. Nothing heard. I might need somebody like you, Trevor, to give a call to Alan and see what's going up on there. But we'll just give an open call now to see if there's anybody on Passage that wants to give us a call. Could the boat that just called say your boat name a couple of times? Nothing heard, so they can't be hearing me. I'm not sure what the conditions are like this morning for the radio, but if you don't call in, we don't have a crystal ball that knows where you are and whether you want to be called. So if anybody wants to call, please try again. Oh, thank you, Trevor. Good morning, Quintessa. Alan, go ahead. I think Trevor has got you. Quintessa, go ahead.
Should have good weather.
You copy me, Patricia?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, Alan, that's 3048 south, 15638 west, and a course of 065 degrees true. Basically 5 to 6 knots. He's got a 10 to 15 knots south southeast. The bar is 1022, 40% cloud cover. And I think he did it. These are pretty calm. About 1 metre 12. Is that all roger there, Alan? He's motor-sailing at this stage.
Okay, got all of that, Alan, got all of that. Could you just indicate to Trevor whether you are copying us or not, please? Over. Did you hear anything?
No.
So pretty much
He
the
stated
same.
a bit on me then, but I think copying Gulf Harbour a bit right there. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Anything at all?
Yeah, hang on.
All right, thank you. I didn't want to have you to do too much work. We rely on you too much, I think, Trevor, but it is appreciated. I think David's just got a quick
Northeast tomorrow.
comment. Northeast tomorrow. Northeast tomorrow, Alan. So
About 15 to 20.
about 15 to 20. About 15 to 20 northeast tomorrow. So be prepared for a little bit of changing of sails there. But boy, you're going 10 to 15 south-southeast is not too bad with that direction at the moment. All right, we'll clear with you. Trevor, while you're there, could you just put a call out for anybody, because I don't think I'm going to copy anyone that's, the conditions are a bit strange today. Could you put a call out anyway for anybody that I can't copy, please? Over.
This is below me, relay for Gulf Harbour Radio. If anybody wants to contact Gulf Harbour Radio, go ahead now. Was that plastic blanket?
Plastic what?
Blanket?
You copy that, Patricia?
No, not a thing. Did you say plastic blanket?
Plastic blanket, hang on now. Is Navarro listening? You got me in Navarro? From Gulf Harbour, gracious lady.
Oh, it's gracious lady up there in the Torres.
Copy that, Patricia?
No, we're busy laughing here. And I have to just divert a minute. A lot of these newscasters now, you know, when you see them on the television, it's sort of like the Siri equivalent. What they are saying gets printed out below them. And when the lady that was telling us about how the first thing Jacinda Ardern wanted was macaroni and cheese, it came out as acrimony and cheese. So it turned out that plastic blanket was Gracious Lady. So thank you, Ron. But yes, Gracious Lady are in the snottiest part of the satellite picture at the moment, up there in Taurus. But they did know that that was going to be the case. Are you going to be covering that shortly?
A little bit,
Yeah, David will cover that shortly, Gracious Lady. So we know that you're there.
Get out the umbrella.
Get out the umbrella is basically all I can say at the moment. Just before I pass the microphone, that we have had a report come in from Fiji. Thank you, Pip. Muscat Cove Marina has reported a yellow buoy adrift 180 miles southwest of the Nabula Passage.
Oh,
So
I know exactly where that is.
David knows exactly where that is. A yellow buoy adrift 180. I think he's being facetious, folks. 180 miles. So if you see a yellow buoy, you'll know that it is adrift, and help yourself, I guess. I'm sure they'd like it back again. All right. Let me pass the microphone because there's an awful lot of weather to report. Some good reports coming in. Most of them seem to be in line with what the Gribs are saying, but there's an interesting one from Nonstop about some discrepancy between models, so we're going to be having a look at that. But I'll pass the microphone and then we can pick up people after that.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Well, you know my thoughts about models, but we're going to start off by saying that most of you have gotten away from the cold of New Zealand over the weekend. Actually, some of you left Friday, I think it was, but the bulk, I think, on Saturday. The low temperatures that you're escaping from, I'm afraid, are going to follow you north for a little while. Now, the 500 millibar shortwave trough does lie over New Zealand. Its western side is bringing rather frigid air north from the Antarctic, while the axis is just to the west of 90 Mile Beach. Now, this is forming the depression that's just south of the South Island, and we did forecast that on Friday and Saturday. So the flow over New Zealand is all cyclonic flow coming from this low pressure who's centered well to the south. And we have a series of weak fronts that are moving up the country. In fact, one's over Gulf Harbor Radio pretty much as we speak, and the rest of the North Island are soon to follow. And there's just a whole series of them that are going to be tracking north. Now, these fronts are going to chase and pass most of the yachts that are underway heading for the islands, but you expected that, I hope. Winds will, however, be favorable, and that's good news. So you're not going to be hammered by headwinds from any of these funnel bands. Now, the high that I promised you is coming on. Its ridge has pushed into the Tasman, and it will be over the cruising routes by probably midnight tonight. A good portion of that ridge is going to be quite helpful to us. Now, by late Tuesday, tomorrow, I expect much of the fleet to be at 30 south. Now, some of you are almost there already, the ones that left on Friday, and the ones on Saturday are pretty darn close. So at that point, you'll have south to southwest winds in the 20 knot range. Now, as the funnel bands pass overhead, you certainly can expect squalls and strong gusts. So these are cold fronts. They're not just your average trough. There is a fair amount of temperature differential across them, and that's the reason there's a little bit more activity in them. So we'll take a closer look at them today. Any of you that can hear us by noon today, one of these cold fronts is expected to lie, and you may want to write this down, at 30 and 170 east, and another point to mark on your chart is 37 in the dateline. Connect those 2 points, and that's about where the frontal band, the axis of it, is going to lie. Now, there is a secondary cold front that's right behind it. It parallels this one. So by midnight, that first trough will have moved from those points that I just gave you to these new points, and that would be 28 south, and draw a little line at 28 south, say 170 east, and then 30 in the date line. So draw a line there, and that's about where that first front is going to be. So it'll have moved quite quickly up to the north, and the second is, of course, right behind it. So you'll go through the first front. There'll be a bit of a pause and think everything's hunky-dory, and then boom, here comes the second one. So you'll probably experience west-northwest winds thereabouts just prior to the first front, and then when the second front passes through, everything will shift to the southwest. And the mean winds are going to be a good 20 knots, and of course they're going to be higher in gusts. So I think just get the sail area down, and you'll be fine. By Tuesday, another band, different from the first two that I just talked about, there's another band which will be about 25 knots in the mean in terms of its wind strength. This will be about midnight. The southerly quadrant winds from it, they'll be around 25 knots, like I said, in the mean, but a little bit lighter, maybe 15 to 20 once you get up to 30 south. So that's the story with these fronts. After that, I think the high is going to take over. It's going to take over pretty much the whole Southwest Pacific. Now, the central pressure is going to wind down a little bit to about 1030, and that center is going to be located between New Zealand and Australia. So your passage north is going to be fairly quick. This particular window is going to give you good winds. They're definitely going to be fresh for most of the journey, even out through Saturday, the 30th of June, I believe that is. Up around the islands, you're going to have about 25 knots as you approach most of the island groups. And the wind direction is going to be east-southeast to southeast, depending upon what island that you're going to. So that's about the summary of that trip. Now, those of you that are still in New Zealand but can't leave, there's one yacht that's on the hard, probably splashing today, and won't get out till Tuesday or Wednesday. That's still okay. I think Wednesday is probably a reasonable day to take off. Most of that cyclonic activity will be gone by then, and as that ridge builds, you'll have a good direction wind to take off on. And if you're going to Tonga or Fiji, even Vanuatu, you should be in halfway decent shape leaving on Wednesday. We'll know more tomorrow and the next day for sure. Okay, up in the islands now, we've got plenty of convective activity. We have a trough that runs from the Solomons right to Tuvalu, then basically on to Futuna, where it hooks up with another trough, which is affecting northern Tonga, Niue, and then on to the southern hooks. Now we've got a quasi-stationary front that's running from southern Tonga, and that goes to Fiji and on to Vanuatu. Vanuatu is not exactly happy with just one trough. We've got another one that's fairly active, and it lies over the Banks and the Torres. It goes on to the Solomons. So I know we've got at least one boat up in the Torres, and looking at satellite imagery this morning, pretty sporty up there. Looking first at Tonga then, a little bit more closely, the first trough is lying pretty much over New Potatoes, and the southern edge of it is affecting Vavau. The second one lies over Tonga Tapu. So the weather today for all of Tonga should be mostly cloudy with scattered showers. Looks about the same for Tuesday. Now early this morning, Vavau reports 7 to 10 knots out of the east. Cloud is varying from 900 feet, quite low, up to about 4,000. Temperature 25 C, dew point 22, and you can check your barometer 1014. The highs report easterlies 10 knots, cloud 1,000 to 1,700 feet, and the temperature also 25, and also the dew point 22. And, well, the barometer is the same thing, 1014 as well. Tonga Tapu, east-southeast 5, scattered cloud at 1,700, 23C, dew point 21, barometer 1016. So by lunchtime, I would expect east-southeast winds about 15 to 20. Tomorrow, southeast in the 15-knot range. Wednesday, however, be ready for stronger winds. South-southeast 20 to 25 knots. And the winds are going to stay fresh to strong right through Sunday. In fact, on Sunday, I'm looking at a solid 25 knots for the chain. So quite a bit of wind coming up. Now for Fiji, thanks to the weak troughs, we're going to have cloudy periods with brief showers. Fiji is going to experience a trade wind surge as the high in the Tasman grows initially up to a 1034, and it's sending winds to the north, and there's always scattered showers when we have these trade wind surges. So I expect these fresh winds to continue through the next weekend, believe it or not. And this morning, Savu Savu is reporting southeast about 16 and the barometer 1013. Suva had fairly light air, but showers and rain at 5 a.m. with a barometer 1015. Nandi, east-southeast about 5 knots, not much going on there, pretty protected. Scattered cloud, barometer 1014. And Taveuni, over on the other side, southeast 15, scattered to broken, 26C, and the barometer 1013. Now, mostly southeast winds, I think, for the group today in the 15-knot range, about the same on Tuesday, a little bit fresher, 15 to 20, and quite fresh right through the weekend, similar to Tonga. Sunday, we're going to be looking at southeast 25 knots, and there'll be some areas up to 30 knots. Now, today I did get a microwave satellite loop, and it's looking like we've got a bit of wind in Betui Ra and also southwest Fidi Levu. So the winds are going to be stronger in those two areas. And as far as radar goes, well, they fixed one of them. So only the Nandi radar is non-operational. The other radars are showing scattered showers this morning about the group, quite early this morning, 5 a.m. roughly. The main falls were near Rambi and Suva. Okay, over to Vanuatu. Hope you haven't fallen asleep here. Vanuatu shows scattered cloud about the group, but quite heavy falls due to the troughing over the banks in the Torres, with clouds spraying south to Port Vila. Winds mostly south-southeast. The microwave satellite indicated 15 to 20 from Epi northward, 25 knots for that area, particularly the banks, and 25 to 30 for Torres. So if you look at the satellite imagery, you'll see why. We've got some very, very tall, cold clouds, and the downflow is bringing quite a bit of wind. Now, south of Epi, the winds are down quite a bit, 10 to 15 knots, east-southeast, southeast. Moving to Newcal, and the end of this broadcast, we're showing scattered cloud on satellite, winds in the southern lagoon at lunchtime, looking at south-southeast, I would say 10 to 15 knots. There's going to be some scattered showers this morning and through lunch, picking up to 20 knots a little bit later in the day. Tomorrow, partly cloudy for the southern lagoon. Expect showers and fresh winds up to 20 knots, and some areas gusting to 30 in the Newcal area. So not a great bit of weather for the southern lagoon. And sorry, that's a lot of information to digest. Hopefully we covered your area. And that's all I've got for today. Questions or comments, come now. I'll pass it on to the chief to field any. Happy sailing to those on passage who probably can't hear us anyhow. Hopefully tomorrow they will. Here's the chief.
Boy, that was a lot, but yes, we've got people going every which direction. Did you cover the Tonga to Savu-Savu? Vava to Savu-Savu is pretty straightforward, I think, that one, so you'll be okay. The one that will be of interest, of course, is the Samoa to Tonga. Did you cover that? He's just trying to remember. Anyway, if you need anything, now's your opportunity to ask. Oh, good morning, Bill. Liberation, very light this morning, as is everybody. Go ahead, Bill.
Roger, we left Paradise this morning.
So you left Paradise and you're heading for, didn't quite catch that, but give me a position over. 1790 and 1745. Wow, thank you for that, and perfect rendition, folks. Have everybody heard that? Even with the poor conditions, I picked that up exactly. What's the conditions like, Bill? Okay, say again where you're going to. What was that?
Can't hear him.
Something, Coro, probably it was. Coro, I think. All right, we've got Liberation on the way, and it sounds as if there's some good sailing conditions for Liberation. That will get some barnacles off the bottom. 17 south, folks, 17945. Oh, I should have put down east, I think, Paradise. Correct me if I'm wrong. 18 knots, folks, from the southeast. 75% cloud cover. Just confirm that it is east, please, Bill. Okay, got that, and you're coming through beautifully.
Southeast 15 to 20 at Coro tomorrow.
Yeah, southeast 15 to 20. Same again tomorrow at Coro, over. All right, clear with Liberation. Anybody else? No, nothing heard, and I'm sure Trevor would have piped up if he had heard anything. Oh, and by the way, for those that are following a Bright Angel, they are now back in the North Pacific. So whilst they are not exactly smelling the barn, they are back in the North Pacific. So that's good. And it just let me tell you, Serrani are in an interesting spot way up the top of New Caledonia. So that's an interesting one. They've only seen 4 yachts in the last month because they are way at the top of Grand Terre. They have currently 12 knots and they are at an uninhabited island called Java, Yankee Alpha, Victor Alpha in the Northwest Lagoon. So that's an interesting one.
It'll be a little rough tomorrow.
There's an, well, that was a while ago. Just let me see if there's anything more recent here.
A little bit rough tomorrow up there.
Oh, to be rough tomorrow up there, Alison, if you are listening. A little bit rougher tomorrow. So I'm sure you and Jeff are in a good sheltered spot there. Well, hopefully you are. So Scoots there at 31 and 174 with 20 knots of west-northwest, having a rollicking ride. 1 metre choppy seas still with that westerly. But further north it sounds pretty decent, both in Vanuatu, Port Olry, beautifully sheltered in there. I wonder if you guys have walked to the big freshwater lake yet. It's easy to find if you track along the fence line, Frank. 6 to 8 knots of southerly up there, very, very comfortable, great spot. But don't buy any wild chicken. Believe you me, wild chicken, no matter what you do with it from Port Olry, I think they chase them about 2 kilometres before they catch them, and there is nothing that you can do to make them chewable. All right, very pleasant from Nananoitaki. Whistler are reporting 6 knots of south-southeast, so good I presume it's a good spot for kiting. Otherwise Fusio wouldn't be there. All right, is there last call, anybody? And we'll be back again tomorrow. Don't forget, this is our last week. We will not be on the radio for 1 month, and that's through all of July. So if you have any questions relating to YIT, YIT, if you are reporting on YIT for your family to follow, then please direct those questions directly to Mike. That's on the site, so you will know it is mike@yit.nz, or just go use the website. Anything related to weather out during this month away, well, I'm away, but David's not, just come direct to Gulf Harbour Radio, otherwise Mike has to pass it on. So any questions related to weather, the email address is ghradio@extra, which is X-ray Tango Romeo Alpha extra.co.nz. There's also, if you're really missing weather discussions, you can go onto our website, which is ghradio.co.nz, and you can go to the weather section and download a couple of weather papers and really study up all those terms, perhaps, or how to get back to New Zealand or whatever it is. And if you have any questions on those, you know where to ask. All right, that's about it from us this morning. We've got an absolutely putrid day here. I'm just going to check whether there's any questions coming in on streaming. No, there's nothing. Sounds very much nicer at Port Vila. Good morning to Eagles winds, 6 knots of east-northeast and only partly cloudy. We now have 100% cloud and heavy rain. And I think that's going to be the name of the game for the rest of the week. So cheers, everybody, and the frequency is now all yours. Did you cover the Taurus, by the way?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.